Welcome into the Lucas and Lucas podcast on a beautiful Thursday in April. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas, and we have some devastating news out of the world of baseball. John Sterling calling it quits a few weeks into the baseball season, seemingly out of nowhere. One of the most devastating announcer retirements I could ever remember. The only one that compares to it is Doc Emmerich leaving the Devils. John Sterling was the voice of my life, basically, for the first 30 years of my life. Just getting to any chance I was in the car, putting him on the radio and listening to his calls and the home run calls and the Yankees win calls. Nothing better. It is just, I'm most upset about the fact that I didn't get there was no warning. There was obviously warnings that this was going to come at some point, but there was no warnings that it was going to come so early in the season, and I didn't get a chance to truly cherish the last game for John Sterling. So honestly, I'm kind of annoyed by it, and I'm not particularly thrilled that he's just decided to call it quits out of nowhere.
Yeah, there were the warning signs. We knew he was old. We knew last season he had thought about it. He's obviously one of the all-time greats on the Mount Rushmore of any type of radio announcer, in my opinion, not just baseball. He's as good as it gets. He had taken a bit of a decline the last couple of years in his ability to judge whether a home run was a home run or just a high pop up to center field. There's the famous, or I guess infamous, and a Stantonian shot
out of the ballpark.
And then it lands 23 feet in front of the warning track. But at the end of the day, I am a little disappointed. And I respect John Sterling's decision, but I wish he said, hey, I'm going to do one more week. And that way we all could have had a chance to give our congratulations, to appreciate John Sterling for a few more games, because it does feel like it was taken away without a proper goodbye. And in all these instances, and Tom Hamilton, who calls the Guardians games in Cleveland, who's been on the show a bunch of times, I think he does a tremendous job.
I actually listened to him on because the Yankees, for whatever reason, over the weekend weren't on WFAN, so I had to find them on the Sirius radio, and I listened to some of Hamilton. And obviously, I hate when listening to other broadcasts when they get excited about the Yankees doing that. That was frustrating, but his overall voice is really good.
And he's been doing it for 48 years. So, he's coming up, and he talked about it a couple of months ago. They doesn't know how much longer he has, but he's coming to the end of his tenure. He's a legendary figure here in Cleveland, Frank. People, just like in New York, John Sterling's beloved. Hammy's the same way here. If all of a sudden he just wasn't on the air anymore, people would riot. And I understand why he's just stepping away immediately, but it doesn't feel like he got the appreciation he deserved for the career he's had by just all of a sudden, snap, I'm done. And I'm a little disappointed in that, because he deserves it.
And then that's why my initial thought was there's got to be some sort of neurological disorder, or he just had to be diagnosed with a terminal illness. There's just and everything that he said and everything that's been reported is that he's totally fine and is just he's woke tired. Up. He's just tired, and listen, he's going to be 86 in July. I get that, but I think he owes it to, if he truly is totally healthy and truly there is no neurological issue there. Where because when I first saw the reports, I was due to health concerns, immediate retirement. It's oh my God, there must be something seriously wrong. And what's not funny, but almost funny, is that the last call I heard from him while I was actually listening in the radio in the car was the Yankees against the Blue Jays. I believe his final series. It must have been that Saturday or Sunday, and it was a ball blooper down the right field line. I believe Kevin Biggio was the right fielder. Sterling was it was a fly ball down the right field line, foul. And I couldn't see what happened. I couldn't see it. It was out of our view. And I was all right, I don't even know what to make of this. And then when I got into work, I saw the play, and it was Kevin Biggio made an incredible diving catch to save 2 runs with 2 outs in the inning. It was the play of the day in baseball. And I was how I just didn't understand how he couldn't see it. But that's that's a John Sterling experience. You're in the car and you just get so
you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, it's you're on your heels at all times, and there's nothing better than when you're in the car and because most of the time I prefer to watch the games and whatnot. So getting to be in the car on the radio and listen to him is a real treat, especially because usually when I'm in the car with other people, none of them listening to the game. So, but when I do get to listen, especially when it's just me by myself, and you get to hear a home run call that you weren't expecting. It's like it makes the entire car ride. Like you're like, yes, it happened, and you had to, like, you laugh about the call because it was just hilarious. And the most disappointing part about it is that, like, the guys that are filling in, no disrespect to Justin Shackle. I've seen him in my building because the S Network is in my building at work. Like, really, really nice guy, but I don't know much about the Emmanuel. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, Barbari or something like that. Fordham graduate. Like, those are the guys that are going to be filling in and probably replacing Sterling full time. But, like, Mike, I would listen to Yankee highlights after every game, or especially every win, to hear how Sterling called it. I wanted to hear his voice. And, like, now that part of my life that was just such a staple of my Yankee fandom for forever is all of a sudden in the snap of a finger is gone. And, like, I'm really struggling coping with the fact that, like, on Twitter, I want to hear how he called. Like, I would have loved to hear him call, like, the Judge Yankees ninth inning rally yesterday. It would have been epic.
Yeah.
Like, double, I feel like it is a base hit. Yankees take the lead. It would have just been like, those are the moments that I'm gonna miss so much. And like I said, in the snap of a finger, it's just gone. It's never coming back, and it is truly, truly, truly devastating. And he owes me a final game.
Well, I wanted to ask you this, Frank. How many all-time great Yankee moments that when you go back and think about, do you hear John Sterling's voice in the background for?
So I'm honestly annoyed. Like, there are some moments that he didn't get to call, whether because Michael Kay was on the call or because Charlie Steiner was on the call. Like, the Aaron Boone home run, he didn't get the call. That was Charlie Steiner, and that haunts me to this day that he didn't get it because I guess they used to alternate and certain innings. So, like, the fact that he wasn't able to be the voice of the Aaron Boone walk-off against the Red Sox, like, that haunts me to this day. There's a couple moments. It was honestly, I think, what ended up proved to be the greatest call of Michael Kay's career in Game 6 of the 2000 ALCS when David Justice, you should look it up, David Justice 3-run home run in the 8th inning off Arthur Rhodes, says, "Get your tokens ready." It was a great Michael Kay call, but I would have loved for that to be John Sterling. Obviously, he got to call the final out of 96, 98, 99, 2000, 2009, all him. But yeah, there's obviously so many moments that he got to call, and I'm disappointed that, like, there are some great moments that for one reason or another he didn't get the call, which still haunts me to this day.
Yeah, I was going back and I was trying to think of, like, my favorite Yankee memories, and it's a mix of John Sterling calls, it's a mix of Michael Kay calls, it's a mix of the play, and I don't frankly remember the call whatsoever, but if John was done, John was done, and it sucks that we don't get our justification or satisfaction, Frankel. But it's his decision. I'll respect it. I'm just mad I didn't get one last chance to sit down on my patio and listen to a John Sterling game one last time. Like, I will always not regret the fact, but just I want one more.
Yeah, and I felt the same way about Bob Shepard. I wrote an article on my blog about it. Like, Yankee public address announcing has never been and will never be the same from what it was when Bob Shepard was there. There will never be, and, like, with all due respect to, I believe his name is Paul Olden, whoever it is, like, it's just not Bob Shepard. So, like, the part of, like, going to Yankee Stadium when I was a little kid was, like, getting to hear Bob Shepard call a game and, like, now batting for the Yankees, the right fielder, number 21. There will never be that ever again. There will never be, like, I'm telling you, the rest of my life, go out of my way to listen to, like, the Yankee radio recap of John Sterling, like, highlights of the game is what they used to call it. Like, I remember, like, after games when I was little in my bed, I would have a radio behind me so I could listen to the Yankee radio station and hear John Sterling, how he called the game, and listen to how he called, the Hideki Matsui home run, the Gary Sheffield home run, the final out of the game. I'm never going to do that again because I have no incentive to do it anymore. And it's absolutely devastating. I remember being at summer camp as a 9 and 10-year-old. I brought my little radio with me to camp, and everyone thought it was crazy. I got made fun of for it. But, like, at 10:30 at night in suburban Pennsylvania, the signal would be clear enough where on WCBS 880 I could, like, listen to get the signal and listen to because that was my only outlet to knowing how the Yankees did. Otherwise, I had to wait till, like, 10 a.m. the next morning when they made announcements to figure out whether the Yankees won or lost. And I couldn't wait that long. I wasn't patient enough. So I needed And like now that all of a sudden it's just gone, and it's absolutely devastating. And just I'm at a loss for words.
Well, we talk about this. So Hamilton with the Guardians and Jimmy Donovan with the Browns have both been here 40 something years in Cleveland. And I've never listened to Jimmy Donovan call a Browns game because I'm always watching on TV. But I've heard Hamilton call Guardians games, and I think he does an awesome job. And Frank, there are people, just what you're going through in New York right now with Sterling. We're going to experience, and these are older people than you and I, the exact same run of emotions in a few years for two different people at once. And it makes me think about how tied together subconsciously the voice of your team truly is. And how the voice of a team, if it's a guy of the stature of a Sterling or a Doc Emmerich or Vince Scully with the Dodgers or Hamilton or Donovan here, like when they've been there for that long, Frank, that's all people know. And when change comes and whoever replaces Sterling, it won't be John Sterling 2.0. It'll be someone else, and hopefully they can carve their own path and do it their own way. You can't fill his shoes. You can just walk in the same direction. But it's tough, man, and it sucks. And it's not equivalent to losing like a loved one, but in a way, it's something that you grew really accustomed. It feels like a breakup. You know what I'm saying? It feels like a no warning breakup, and there's no coming back from it, even though it's not that consequential in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. It's I always thought like when Bob Shepard, like when he left, like he was sick and like just never got healthy enough to do it. And like look at the old Phillies announcer, Harry Kalas, literally died in the broadcast booth the day of the game. Literally was in the broadcast booth, had a heart attack and died. Like that's why I thought it would always happen to John Sterling. But just the sudden nature of it, and based on everything you're hearing, there's no legitimate health issue there that contributed to this. It leaves you wanting more. And I guess like in the grand scheme of things, like if you get to leave your career on your own terms with people wanting more, like, and not being in a situation where, oh, he's so over the hill, like thank God he's leaving. It's time. Like I don't feel that way at all. Like there's calls that I tweeted out in that first series in Houston. Like some of my favorite John Sterling calls, not just of this year, but of all time. The Juan Soto hit to give the Yankees the lead in the
First game of the season.
That Sunday game, and then the Verdugo catch to end the game. Like it's on my timeline. Go listen to it. It's electric, and it just we're just never gonna have that again. All of a sudden, it's just gone. But anyway, I wish I could be there on Saturday to salute him. I've never actually met him. I've seen him like the only time I've ever like had like a sort of face-to-face contact with him was outside the hotel in Boston when the Yankees were playing the Red Sox, and I did my mock Sterling call literally right in front of him, and I said the Yankees would have to beat the Red Sox. He looked at me and goes, they did, and then he walked right into the hotel, and that was the only like interaction I've had with him. But sad part of my life is now officially over. As for the Yankees, huge win on Wednesday over the Blue Jays. I was so out on Aaron Judge before his bases loaded hit with 2 outs in the ninth on Wednesday. 0 for 12 with 7 strikeouts in the series. So hopefully that provides a little bit of a spark. I hate Gleyber Torres, and I hope that the Yankees bench him when DJ LeMahieu returns. That Sunday loss to the Guardians still haunts me. Gleyber, the Yankees just turn that double play, or Gleyber just goes to first instead of trying to get Josh Naylor out at home. That game probably turns out differently. Just that was a devastating. There's certain like regular season losses that like stick with me like more than playoff losses, or like
yeah, you got to get over it. It's not that big. It's really not.
Anyway, but big win yesterday, and then now the Yankees will play back home for the Rays on Friday.
Moving on, Frank. What's next?
So Daniel Jones, I'm sure you saw, had that press conference with his eyes. Is he on drugs? The Giants. He can never start for the Giants again. When Adam Gase had his press conference for the Jets and he had that press conference with his eyes, that was the coffin. It was never going to work. Anytime you have a press conference where your eyes look like that, that is the sign that you need to leave and never come back. The Giants need to draft a quarterback immediately, and they can't have Daniel Jones start over again after that.
No, they have to start Daniel Jones this year. They have to be bad and draft a quarterback next year. I do not want to give up the draft. I don't like, Frank, I don't know how you feel about this, and not to change subjects. I like Caleb Williams. I don't like any of the other quarterbacks in this draft.
I mean, Jaden Daniels could be special. Drake May could be special. I think JJ McCarthy is kind of like a Mac Jones type of player that just gets way overhyped. I think JJ McCarthy's not going to go in the top 10. That's my bold prediction for the draft. He falls out of the top 10.
My nightmare is the Giants trade up to 4 to draft him. Like that is literally so. Because I don't like these quarterbacks in particular, Frank, I don't want to give up the asset to move up 2 or 3 spots to draft one of these guys when I like the receivers so much that one of them's going to be there. I like all 3, Harrison Jr., Neighbors, or Dunze. You start Daniel Jones at quarterback. You know you're going to be bad for one more year.
I mean, Daniel. I mean, to be fair and about Daniel Jones, like with all due respect,
he's a competent starting quarterback. He's not that
he was set up for failure last year with the Giants. Like they had no one.
He's never had weapons. Even the year they made the playoffs, Frank, that roster was it was the luckiest team in football. They weren't as good as the record said. Their defense was solid, and offensively it was the Saquon show. They had Isaiah Hodgins was their number 1 receiver. They were throwing in nobodies. He's never had a real receiver in football. And Daniel Jones is fine. I think Daniel Jones is between 15 and 20 in the league. I think his ceiling's like top 12. I don't think it's much higher than that. But you can win with Daniel Jones as your quarterback if the rest of the pieces around him are competent. I just don't think they can put a competent roster around him to reach that next level. And if they're not great this year, you're not paying him $40 million. Like he's not worth $40 million. So you're going to move on from him anyway. You play him this year, you draft the receiver, and you bring in a rookie quarterback next year.
But I think if he plays, like I think the floor is like 7 wins.
No. I like their defense, but like their offense, even if they draft Neighbors, let's say, or pick a receiver, Dunze, Neighbors, whatever. Their weapons are now Devin Singletary. You lose Saquon, so you take a step back at running back. Your receivers are a rookie, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton. Is he back? Did he end up signing somewhere
Darius
else?
Slayton, Giants. I'm pretty sure he's back. I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson. You got a bunch of guys you hope could be good.
He's on the Giants.
Still the Giants, okay. So I mean, you have Darren Waller might retire. Like you.
Well, he's exactly skipping workouts as he looks for a new deal.
Waller or Slayton?
Slayton.
Exactly. My point exactly. So like, it's not like this offense is very good, Frank, with or without a top guy. I just don't know if they win games.
The Giants take it 6.
Neighbors is who I want. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, I want him. I just don't expect him to be there.
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's gonna.
I take Neighbors over Odunze. Yes.
Yeah, I would like the Jets to get either Neighbors or Odunze, but I don't think either of them will fall at 10. I think the Jets will end up with Brock Bowers. Speaking of the Jets,
how would you feel about that?
I didn't see more Brock Bowers tape. I know he was like the stud tight end for Georgia, and the Jets they definitely need another weapon for Rodgers. I think, Mike Williams is great. Garrett Wilson is great, but they need another like legitimate playmaker on the offensive side of the ball to complement Breece Hall in the backfield. And I think ideally it would be Odunze or Neighbors. I find it hard to believe that both those guys are going to be there at 10. So I think as much as they need more offensive line help, I think Bowers is probably going to be the pick. Every mock draft guy is picking Bowers to the Jets, and that just seems like the most plausible scenario. Which, I mean, he might be really good. Who knows? I just can't believe the Jets released new jerseys again.
They look exactly the same.
Well, no, the biggest difference is the logo on the side of the helmet. They're going back to like the logo they had in the 80s and the 90s.
That's the same as the old retro.
Yeah,
logo.
it's just like every time you get a new jersey, it's like it feels like the Jets more so than other teams have changed their uniform a lot in the last like 15 years. It's like the 3rd or 4th time they've changed their uniform. The Giants, for the most part, haven't really changed. Never. The Cowboys don't really change it. The Patriots have pretty much stuck to it.
Packers.
The Packers haven't really changed it. The Browns, they just released a new white face mask.
People love it, by the way.
Bills haven't changed it. Dolphins have made slight alterations. Eagles haven't really changed it. Everyone knows what's going on with the Commanders. The Ravens have stuck to it. Like most of the teams, I feel like don't. But the Jets, it's like every time you look up,
the Jets and the Falcons. I feel like the Falcons have changed it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I get the marketing ploy around it because it it's kind of sucks when you go to a game that you don't have like the most up-to-date jersey, or like you just bought a jersey and then it immediately becomes dated. I don't know. It's just frustrating every time you look up and see that they have a new uniform. But one thing I was surprised about was only 13 NFL players are attending the draft, which is like, I look back for as long as I could like look back. This is like the lowest number ever. 13 attendees to the NFL draft. This is supposed to be like, there's got to be, I couldn't figure out like, why are so many guys hesitant to go? And isn't this like, I mean, unless they're all afraid of like the humiliation of not being picked as high as they were, or being told they could go, and having,
Will Levis,
the Brady Quinn treatment, or the Will Levis, or the Brady Quinn, or the Brady Quinn thing was like, that was like, I think probably the most embarrassing one, because they had like so many cameras on him. He looked really uncomfortable. He was like sweaty. That's the one that like really stands out as like the nightmare scenario. But this is
at least he went first round. Will Levis didn't go to the second round. He spent the whole night there and never heard his name called. You're right. Like, you're right that the Quinn one had way more drama, anticipation, and cameras, but at least he got drafted in the first round.
The whole point of this show is to like see these guys go on stage, shake the hand of the commissioner, hold up the jersey, take the picture. That's like, it's supposed to be a huge moment in these guys' careers. How have they only get 13 people? There were more WNBA prospects in the WNBA draft than there are in the NFL draft. That should never, ever, ever be the case. It's like, and the guys that are going are all going to be in the first, like they're going to be the first 13 to 15 guys off the board. It's going to be like, after that, it's just going to be Goodell making the pick, and then a reaction shot from wherever they're watching the draft. Or it's just, I think it's a terrible look. And what is your best like rationalization for why so many prospects? Is it because they're afraid of the humiliation? That's the best I could do.
No, I think more than anything else, the younger, not younger, that's not the right word. The older we get and the younger these prospects are. Not like in terms of their age, they're all 18 through 21. I'm saying like younger generation. They just rather celebrate with their family and friends than be in New York and have just their family with them and shake their hand with the commissioner. I think at the end of the day, that's more of what it is than anything else. Like CeeDee Lamb, a few years ago, I got a chance to know him a little bit in his pre-draft coverage. He was working out with one of the trainers that trained a lot of A&M guys, so I interlocked with him. He was invited to the draft, and he turned it down because he was having a giant party with all his friends and family from back in Texas. Like, he just would rather spend that day with them than he would at a table in New York City. I just think as we get
in New York City, it's in Detroit,
or wherever it is, but I just think that's more of the case than anything else. I wouldn't look too far into it, Frank.
I just think it's a bad look for the league. Like, you're trying to put on this big television product, and like the whole allure of it is like seeing the guy put on the hat and the jersey and take the picture. Like, that's like that to me is like, it's a huge.
Do you know the names who are the 13 guys going? Do you know?
I have it. Let me just pull it up. I have the article on my timeline. Give me 20 seconds here. It's so here are the 13 prospects. It's the quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, some guy named Terrion Arnold out of Alabama, J.C. Latham out of Alabama, the Latu guy out of UCLA, Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo, Darius Robinson out of Missouri, Brian Thomas Jr., son of the former Jet out of LSU, and Dallas Turner, the edge rusher out of Alabama, are the 13 guys.
Gotcha.
That are going.
That makes sense.
What makes sense? It doesn't make any sense. There should be at least 25 guys.
But those are all guys that I would expect you to name, is my point. Like, that makes sense that those are the 13.
Anyway.
Which might really be 13 of the top 15 picks.
So this doesn't seem to like bother you at all. You're just like, it is what it is.
It's their day. However they want to spend it, good for them.
I think they owe it to the fans to show up and have that moment at the draft. It's like, I think it's a huge part of like the whole thing, but whatever.
Is Sauce Gardner a great player because he was at the draft to hold up that number 1 jersey when the Jets took him?
But like seeing their suit and like if they have anything special on the inside of their suit and like their outfit, it's like a whole spectacle. It's like the Academy Awards. Like, I mean, I hate watching.
But like, listen, you just named 13 of the top 15 picks. If you're not one of those guys, you could be sitting there till pick 29. It's like a 5-hour affair. There's no guarantee you're going. Like, my point is, I get it. It'd be cool if they're all there, but however they want to spend their day, go do it your way.
So the Brooklyn Nets wasted absolutely no time getting a replacement for their head coach, whether it's Jacques Vaughn or Kevin Ollie, whatever. They hired Jordi Fernandez from the Sacramento Kings, or their lead assistant. I can't wrap my head around, like, what is the sales pitch for Jordi Fernandez to take this job? Because the only argument is, hey, there's only 30 of these jobs, so they're very slim. So when you have your opportunity, you have to take it. But like,
Yeah,
if I'm Jordi Fernandez,
just answer your own question.
But no. But no, because here's the counter argument to that. You're Jordi Fernandez. You are in a stable situation with the Sacramento Kings, in an ascending franchise. Just got a new arena, has a core of players that has a chance to be really good for a decent amount of time here, with De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis as the main pieces of that team. And you're going to go leave that for the Brooklyn Nets, who have a general manager who is, who's probably on the hottest of hot seats in the entire league, with a roster that is below average at best, no control of any of your own first round picks till 2028. I mean, with a player of Ben Simmons, who is the most unreliable player in probably the history of the league, like, what possibly could have allured him to leave a stable situation for a dumpster fire in Brooklyn? And listen, I get, like, there's only don't
I won't even do. Listen, that's the right answer, but I won't even give you that. I'll give you the other reasons. A, it's a team in a major market. Unlike Sacramento,
hang on.
Okay, you can't ask me to tell you, and then as soon as I give you,
but that's wrong. They're not. I mean, the Nets, quote unquote, are in the New York market, but they're not. They're Brooklyn in the NBA may as well be like Kansas.
How many marquee players have the Nets signed in the last 5 years?
Signed?
Yeah.
They signed Kyrie Irving.
Signed Kevin Durant.
No, they traded for Kevin Durant.
No, stop making this is a sign and trade. Get out of here. That's two, right?
In the last 5 years?
Yeah. It's two. How many other franchises across the NBA have signed two legit marquee free agents in the last 5 years?
I mean, the teams that like are truly great are the teams that develop their homegrown talent. Like,
Frank, that's my point. You're answering my. Listen, it is so hard, and we're dealing with this in Cleveland right now. Guys don't want to play in Cleveland. They don't. Guys don't want to play in Milwaukee. Guys, it takes not weird, but like a special, unique situation for a Giannis to be comfortable in Milwaukee for as long as he has. Brooklyn is a place that has proven it can attract top-tier talent, including.
Frank, I think those days are over. I honestly, like, I don't.
Can I mute you? Is it possible for me to mute you?
Okay, keep going.
They have picks to trade. They have matching salaries to try and acquire a superstar this summer, mainly Donovan Mitchell, who wants to play in New York. They have a.
Can I just reply to your Donovan Mitchell statement? Donovan Mitchell would be so dumb to go to Brooklyn. Like, if you're trying to compete and win, the last place you should go is Brooklyn. That is a bridge to nowhere, but continue.
Once again, I'm just laying out the reasons. I'm not saying they're all right. I'm just laying out the reasons a guy like Jordi Fernandez would take the job. You're in a city that can attract legitimate players, which you cannot in Sacramento. You have young pieces, varying values, and picks from Phoenix, which could be nothing, could be gold mines, to try and acquire a superstar. It's a place where most superstars would accept a trade to. And you have a general manager who is on, like you said, the hottest of hot seats. So if things go wrong, Frank, Jordi Fernandez can look for a next job and be like, hey, I was told this, and this. The reality was X, Y, and Z instead. You see what I came into. I tried to make the best out of it. And most importantly, Frank, the Nets have no incentive to lose. None. They don't have any of their own draft. So a guy like Jordi Fernandez comes in.
They made that Celtics trade and they bottomed out, traded everyone, and the Celtics wound up with Tatum and Brown. So don't, like, yes, there's no quote unquote incentive to tank, but that doesn't mean the Nets will do it. They will 100% tank. They've shown in the past that despite having no incentive to tank, they will still gladly tank.
But they didn't intentionally tank this year. They just weren't coached very well. Also, Ben Simmons in the last year of his deal, that turns into $40 million in cap space. He's also a tradable contract. The Nets are a bleak franchise right now. I am not arguing that. When you look at the grand landscape of the NBA, Frank, they have a lot of components you'd want as a head coach or as a excuse me, an assistant coach looking to take that first step into a head coach that would make the job valuable. And you're trying to undersell it in a way that I don't think is fair to the Nets.
The Nets are a true dumpster fire and are going absolutely nowhere for the foreseeable future. And I mean, I'm glad that they found somebody who was willing to take the job. I didn't think they would find someone that quickly, but
I heard it was their second choice though, which I don't love.
I thought that report was disputed.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I just saw that online. Eli had great things to say about.
I mean, to be fair to Sean Marks, like when the Nets were in this situation last, he like did an unbelievable job at like creating that initial group of players that included, Dinwiddie, LeVert, Jared Allen. Like he created a really fun team that led to Durant and Kyrie being like, oh my God, look what's going on in Brooklyn. Like that's a cool place to play. We'll see if he can do it again. I just wish, like, when I think back on like the Durant, Harden, Kyrie years, like obviously I saw Eric Adams going on WFAN this afternoon, which is like every time I see the name just like enrages me. Like if those guys would just had a little more patience, like I think they would all be in better situations than they are now. But speaking of those guys, so the NBA playoffs get underway, full swing on Saturday. Suns play the T-Wolves in the 6-3 matchup. It's the 4-5 matchup between Clippers, Harden against Kyrie in the 4-5. And then, so when you look at those guys, KD, Harden, Kyrie, which will make the deepest run in the playoffs this season?
I'm gonna go with Kyrie.
Yeah, I think the way the Mavs are looking right now is like they're pretty scary, and the way that Kyrie is like sort of playing the Robin role to Luka is perfect. I think they'll beat the Clippers, and I don't think they'll go to the NBA Finals, but they have
if they beat the Clippers, they'll play OKC most likely in the first round, and they could win that series, which is crazy because I don't think they were going to beat Minnesota, but they'll avoid. They wouldn't beat Denver, who they'll avoid. OKC was the one team I think they could beat at the top three, and it looks like that's the way the matchups are going to align. A hell of a draw for the Mavericks.
So what is the feeling in Cleveland about the Magic? Did the Cavs feel like they got this in the bag, or are they scared?
I think it's going to be a hell of a series. I picked Cavs in 7. I've gone back and forth between 6 and 7. I actually think I'm leaning more towards 6 now, but I said on the show today 7. I think I'm actually in 6. It's going to be a rock fight, Frank. 1st to 85 is what JB Bickerstaff said. Both teams really good defensively. It's going to come down to as simple as it sounds. Which role players are going to make threes? Like which team's role players can actually hit an open shot? In the playoffs, it is so different than the regular season. And most of the Cavs guys are unproven. The guys who played in the postseason last year did not perform well. That's why they went out and they got Max Strus. That's why they went out and got George Niang. Joe Ingles is that guy for the Orlando Magic. I just trust at the end of the day, guys like Strus to come through and make shots when it matters more than I trust Jalen Suggs or Franz Wagner, a lot of Orlando's guys. So I'm picking the Cavs in 6, but I have a feeling that my gut sense of the city is this is going to be a pushover series. I do not think it'll be a pushover series.
We'll see. The series I'm most honestly intrigued by is Knicks Sixers. It opened up Sixers.
Awesome.
Knicks.
That's crazy. That's crazy, by the way.
The Sixers were the favorites. Now it's even money, -110 both sides. I feel like the winner of this series could go to the conference finals. Like this is such a swing series for both sides. Embiid's health is like obviously the biggest factor here. The Sixers were 31-8 when Embiid played this year. 31-8. That's like, I mean, that is absurd. And like
second best win percentage in basketball.
So like, I guess based on that logic, like the Sixers probably should win the series, assuming that Embiid stays healthy and plays the games. But the most disrespected team in the NBA this year is the Knicks. Like, granted, I know Julius Randle's out, but once they got OG Anunoby and OG Anunoby's played, they've been as good as anybody. Jalen Brunson is by far the most disrespected player in the league. That dude in the last like couple months has put up like 35 to 40 a game. It feels like single-handedly putting the Knicks on his back. he wrote that letter to the fans on the Players Tribune. Like, I would. It's like people look back and say like the Knicks losing out on Kyrie and Durant's like the best thing that happened to that franchise. Um, the Knicks guys have so much heart, but I guess it just comes down to like, do they have enough scoring when it truly matters to get past the Sixers? And that's the thing I'm most interested in seeing the whole playoffs. I think the Sixers win the series, but like counting out the Knicks with Brunson is just, and OG Anunoby it's honestly foolish.
I'm taking the Knicks in the series. I'm not gonna lie. I just don't trust Embiid health wise and/or in the playoffs. He has yet to prove to me that when the lights are brightest and the stage is biggest, he can come through in the clutch. Time after time after time, he has disappeared on the biggest stage. And even though he had 23 and 15 last night, Frank, it was not a great shooting night from Joel Embiid. And the Knicks have bodies to throw at him across the board. I'm not sure they have an answer for Jalen Brunson. And when OG Anunoby plays, just like you mentioned, the record with Embiid, 31 and 8, I'm pretty sure the Knicks are something like 23 and 4 when OG Anunoby plays. So both are healthy. I don't trust either, but I like both teams to beat Milwaukee and/or Indiana in the second round.
Go in your head right now. Who wins the NBA Finals?
Denver Nuggets over the Boston Celtics.
That's
The most common pick, but I agree with it.
It just feels like the Celtics have been through so many wars with Tatum and Brown that like eventually they have to win at some point. So I hate to say it, but I've been picking the Boston Celtics to win the NBA championship. It's all about 18. That will do it for this edition of Lucas podcast. NFL draft. Next week, Giants pick Malik Neighbors at 6. Jets wind up with Brock Bowers at number 10. Quarterbacks go in the top 3, and JJ McCarthy falls out of the top 10. Those are my bold predictions.
Peace.